Elementary music teacher friend, you love what you do, but you might feel unappreciated and, in fact, unseen some days. You may even feel like you're on a music teacher island and just want to connect with other music teachers who can relate to both your struggles and wins when it comes to teaching elementary music. I get you and understand completely the feelings you're having. That's why each and every week, the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast will provide you with solo and guest episodes that will help you realize you're not alone in your music teaching journey. Throughout each episode, my goal is for you to be able to walk away with actionable steps and ideas to help you feel like you're ready to take on the new week with whatever challenges may be thrown your way. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Peresta, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're at home, in your car, in the shower, or wherever else you're listening, grab your cup of coffee or whatever other beverage is nearby and listen in to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. Hey friend, I am so excited to invite you to a free 3-day challenge called the Reflect and Renew Challenge. In this free challenge, you'll begin to think about teaching elementary music in a new way. In just 3 days, you'll go from feeling overwhelmed to confident, and will surround yourself with other music teachers who will support and encourage you. Day 1 is all about reflecting. You'll reflect back over where you're at in this school year and identify the highs and lows, no matter if you are joining this challenge at the beginning, middle, or end of the school year. We start with reflecting first in order to move forward successfully. Day 2 is all about processing. You'll process through what it is you need to focus on to make your music teaching situation successful. Then day 3 is all about renewal. You'll break through mindset beliefs while setting goals and action steps to help you meet them. Each day of the challenge, you'll be getting a daily challenge email that will contain action steps for you to take. So simply head to subscribepage.com/reflect and renew challenge to save your seat, and I'll see you there.
I'm Maurice McDavid, host of Black, Brown, and Bilingual, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Well, hey there. Welcome back to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today. And I thought it has been a while since I have come on to talk about tech integration. And I have told you before, but I got my master's last year in educational technology. And I really enjoy using tech with kids, but also teachers. In fact, in my brand new teaching position, I am now not only the music teacher, but also the educational technology specialist at my school. And so I have been working with teachers and for all subject areas and helping them integrate technology into their lessons. And in the process of doing this, not only for myself and with teachers I work with in various ways online, but also now in person, I have gotten some pretty common questions. And one of the most common questions is the fact that I have so much to teach. I don't want technology to take over, or something like, how do I use technology hand in hand with what I'm already doing, and all kinds of other questions. But I wanted to really just come on and talk to you about 3 ways to naturally integrate technology into your lessons based around those conversations or questions I've been asked. So number 1 is we're going to talk about streaming directly from your computer. I know that sounds simple, and I know you're like, well, duh, that's literally like, I don't need to hear that on a podcast episode. I'm already doing that. But let me give you some ideas of what I'm doing this year with my students when I sit down to lesson plan. And I would highly suggest going back to episode 264 and listening to how I batch lesson plan. Well, one of the pieces I look at is when I'm thinking about how I'm planning and what songs and activities is also when I sit down to think, it's like, okay, would this, for example, book be better for me to read from the actual pages? Or would this make more sense as an interactive story? Or my students are working on counting rhythms for whatever grade level that might be. Would this be better as me having rhythms written on a whiteboard, or me holding up, let's say, flashcards, or them working in groups or with partners? Or would it work better for me to have this pulled up on a screen for them to see? So that's exactly the way my brain processes. I don't necessarily think technology has to be brought into every lesson. And I don't necessarily think that technology has to be used every single class period for the entire class period. What I do think, though, is if it makes sense for what you're doing, technology definitely can enhance the learning process with your students. So when I say stream directly from your computer, I want to give just some ideas of what I have done already this school year, even though we're still towards the beginning. Rhythm counting. So when I was talking about rhythm counting, I love to show my students rhythms that maybe it's a static image of a rhythm, and then I'm using music underneath it for them to count the rhythms with, let's say, a hip hop beat. I've done that. I have literally just pulled up a static image of a rhythm right there for them to look at. I have also used different echo patterns for students to echo, where they're seeing maybe some hands moving across the screen, counting the rhythms, and then they are echoing after it. I have found some amazing rhythms or on YouTube, or some YouTube channels I follow that I really, really enjoy. I do know one of the summer series episodes I did was around some of my favorite YouTube channels. So scroll back to, I would say, June and July of 2023 to find some of those summer series episodes where I shared my favorite things. But I will share directly from YouTube. From my computer, I will just cast from my computer to, let's say, the TV that's in there. I have a TV that I use. Or Music Play Online has Poison rhythms that I really enjoy using. I know Quaver Music has some great rhythms that you can stream to your kids. So it's not a matter of, it doesn't matter to me what you use, but I'm just sharing that rhythm. When you're counting rhythmic patterns, having it pulled up, like I said earlier, it could be a static image. It could be on Google Slides. It could be you're streaming directly from an actual website or YouTube. Those are all great to reinforce what your students are practicing. So I love to do something like that. And then we pivot to doing maybe it's popsicle stick rhythms on the floor, or then they are working on playing a particular rhythmic pattern on their instruments. Or they're improvising. So you can definitely use technology and then pivot to doing something else in your classroom as well. Other things I like to use, I've mentioned stories. I like to do both. And it just honestly, first of all, I've talked about every class is not the same. So some of my classes I think would be better of just having me quietly read to them from the pages of a book. I like to still use physical books. But other classes I think that would really enjoy and do well with an interactive story, I might use that. So it totally is up to you, but sometimes I do interactive stories with all of my students. But I think those are great because sometimes the person reading the story has a really good reading voice, but also it makes kind of the pages of the book come alive a little bit more. And students are able to sometimes do what the book tells them to do, especially if it's like a music story. Movement ideas. So one thing I really like using my computer to stream to TV, I love showing different movements. Maybe it is just giving an example of a way not a student, but someone is moving their body, or putting up some various yoga poses, or also when we're working on folk dancing, instead of me looking like a crazy person trying to explain to everybody what to do and it gets overwhelming for all of us, why not bring in an example of on YouTube and if your school does not get YouTube, there's various other ways to do this, but where your students are able to see how this folk dance is supposed to be danced, and then they're able to get a better understanding of it. So that is something I enjoy doing as well. I also love just using music from YouTube or websites. And for when I do this, I'm not necessarily streaming it to my to the TV. I'm just playing it from my computer over, let's say, a Bluetooth speaker. This is something that I have done a lot. I have playlist after playlist after playlist on YouTube for various grades, but also for various activities or concepts I'm wanting to teach. And then if I have it in my lesson plan, I can directly link to that hyperlink of that YouTube channel or that YouTube video. My brain wasn't working. And then I can just play directly from there. And like I said, hook it up to a Bluetooth speaker and play it for my kiddos. And when I do that, a lot of times I will just point the screen away from them so they can't see on the computer. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but sometimes I just want them to listen to music and not just be distracted by a screen. So that is the first way, is streaming from your computer. The second way to naturally integrate technology into your lessons is to use student Chromebooks. Now, I know that you are limited on the amount of time you see your students. And so I personally think that definitely using Chromebooks with your kids is really fun and something different for them to do in the music room. But I also think it's something that you plan out. So let's say you want to only do this, I don't know, whatever works for you, once every 9 weeks. We'll have a plan for, I do want my students to bring Chromebooks in today. I'm going to work it out with their teacher on rolling that cart down. And then what am I going to do when I have the Chromebooks? Have a plan in place for that. It might be working in centers where the students all have a Chromebook, or maybe only a handful of them have Chromebooks that time. And when you rotate centers again, then the next group would be doing the Chromebooks. Or maybe they're composing music. Let's say, especially your upper elementary students, if they're working on composing music, then your go-to website of choice, then they have instructions that you have put on your smartboard or however you put instructions up in your classroom on a Google slide. And they are composing music that day, where they're maybe with a partner or they're with a small group or even just working individually. If they're bringing Chromebooks in, they could also play music games. This could be a great 9-week reward, something I'm also planning to use, where a great incentive for having great classroom behavior, I think I've said the word great now 16 times, is to have them play a music game of choice. And what's great about this is the students are still learning, and you are still teaching them. You're still teaching them based upon the concepts that you have been working on. And I don't know why my go-to is always Steady Beat, but it just is the simplest concept to think of when I don't have my concepts pulled up in front of me. But if your students, let's say, are working on Steady Beat, and that is what's listed in your lesson plans, and that's the concept you're covering for that 9 weeks, or let's say for the next 3 weeks of the 9 weeks, then you're going to have some music games that they're playing directly related to the concept the students are working on. So those are just some simple ideas for students using their Chromebooks or iPads, tablets, whatever else they have. There are 9,000 million, that's not even a number, 9,000 ideas that I could have mentioned here, but the 3 I wanted to just name off the top of my head are centers, and then composing music, and then playing musical games. The third way that you can naturally integrate technology into your lessons is through music. I am talking not just about music class, but Spotify playlist. This is something that I wish I had done long ago. In fact, if you go on Spotify and just look for my name, Jessica Peresta, you will see a bunch of playlists that I have curated for this school year that I'm continually adding to for all kinds of things. So I have found music for body percussion, for bucket drumming, for preschool music, for upper elementary music, lower elementary, all kinds of things. And I'm constantly curating it based upon what I think my students need, but also if I need some extra ideas, then when I sit down to lesson plan, this is another great way when I go to my songs and activities list. And if I'm not feeling inspired by what I've already typed there, then I'm like, let me go to my Spotify and see what's there. And a lot of times I found some great ideas. One of the ideas from Spotify I've been using a lot lately is some scarf music. So I have curated one of my playlists is all about music for scarves. And for my littles, my preschoolers and kindergartners, There are some scarf songs that are great on my playlist that I've put there that basically give instructions of how students can move with their scarves. They're pretty self-explanatory. And so I really like that using Spotify playlist. So you're integrating this into your classroom by this is a piece of technology. The technology is not always just what's on a screen, but it's also technology is what you're listening to as well. So you're using a streaming service to stream music into your classroom for students to listen to. That is a fantastic way to integrate technology into your music room. And you can create your own playlist as well. So you can even, if you're not inspired by the music I have on my playlist, that's totally fine with me, but use it as inspiration, or just use it as, oh, what categories does Jessica have? And so you can definitely start creating your own as well. So I hope that you found this helpful. And I want to just leave you with, when you are integrating technology into your music room, don't be overwhelmed by the process. Don't be so overwhelmed by, oh my gosh, how much of what should I do? Or am I doing enough technology? Am I not doing enough of it? Or am I doing too much of it? Just let all those expectations go on of yourself. Don't be so stressed out about trying to do everything that you do nothing. Don't get stuck. You do not have to use every piece of technology that's out there. By the way, there's a lot. There's a lot of websites and apps and all kinds of stuff. In the same way, when it comes to lesson planning, there's a ton of curriculum resources now. You do not have to use everything. So you just make decisions about what works for you, what you're comfortable with, what resonates with your students, and then let go of the rest. I hope you found even a nugget of wisdom from this episode, and I will be back next week with a brand new episode. Well, hey there. Thank you so much for listening into the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. There is an exclusive Facebook group just for listeners of this podcast and any elementary music teacher called the Elementary Music Teacher Community Facebook Group. Come on over and join us there, where we have conversations around the podcast episodes and encourage each other each and every week. And also head to my website, thedomesticmusician.com. I have some free resources there that you can download to help you gain traction in your classroom today, as well as the blog and the membership site and all kinds of other goodies to help you keep going in your music teaching journey. I cannot wait to keep connecting with you and encouraging you and spurring you on in your journey of teaching elementary music. Hang in there, have an amazing week, and I will see you soon.